And welcome. Thanks for joining me for the first part of our 6-parter ARCHLine.XP online architectural courses, during which we are going to create a model which is a 2-story family house part of a terraced building. So that's what we are going to end up creating. My name is Zoltán Tóth. I'm the partner manager of ARCHLine, which is making the software ARCHLine.XP, your design software made for you. Now, normally I would have an event like this one along with my colleague, Mr. Illés Pap, who's our resident architect, in our comfortable recording studio. But not today, because of the international relations or conditions that we are facing today. We are working from home, but that is no excuse. So if we want to keep the software available to the public, we have to create training materials, and that's what I'm doing right now. So a couple of things you have to know about me. I enjoy creating models. So sometimes I create models out of plastic or plaster, so like real world scale models of airplanes and dioramas. And obviously I'm a CAD nerd, so I like to create models just like the ones you see on the right hand side. If you have ever seen the content on our website called Remodeled in ARCHLine, most of the time I'm making these because I enjoy creating things. I like things when they are coming together. And for that reason, whenever we are talking about how do we get from here all the way to here, I'm not only going to tell you where to click and what to do, obviously we are going to cover that too, but I'm also going to tell you the tips and tricks I picked up along the way. So I'm going to show you how to save time, how to be a bit more efficient with your time. Now, let's get back to ARCHLine. I'm pretty sure that you already know the basics, what ARCHLine actually is. But in a couple of words, I'm going to tell you what we are offering. So, the ARCHLine.XP product family consists of 3 different products. First of all, we have ARCHLine.XP LT, which is the lower version of ARCHLine. It's targeted for smaller projects, family houses, couple of story buildings. Now, if you are looking for something more, that's what ARCHLine.XP Professional has to offer, and that's what we are going to talk about today. ARCHLine.XP Professional is a BIM software which has features for interior design and architecture alike. And at the end of this series, we are going to look at ARCHLine.XP Live, which is a fully immersive architectural visualization software, which is there to create 3-dimensional visual walkthroughs of the models that you're creating. I think it's better to demonstrate that with a video, but at the end I'm going to do that. So let's jump back into ARCHLine. This is what we are hoping to achieve, and by today's end we are going to have the first 2 stories of this building. Now, how do we get started? Obviously, when you are working in an architectural environment, more often than not, you have files available to you, and that's the time when we have to talk about import formats. What are the file formats that you can import into ARCHLine? Because let's face it, more often than not, you are going to work on something which somebody has already started creating. And since there are many import formats in here, I'm very interested to hear what kind of software are you using at the moment. Please use the chat bar either next to the video or below the video to submit what kind of files or what kind of software you are using at the moment. The ARCHLine.XP import can be categorized in many different categories, but generally we are importing line work. So for example, DXF, DWG drawings. We have connection to other BIM software products, and that goes for our IFC or RVT or RFA file formats. You can also import PDFs, SKP file formats. So there are many formats, but two things to highlight here is the render connection. So we connect to many external renderer software. So if you already have a renderer software, that's not a problem, we can connect to it. But the most important, what we are going to focus on today, is the DXF DWG drawing. Now, without saying trivial things, DXF and DWG drawings are the exchange formats for line work. So we are not looking for 3-dimensional data here, we are just looking for lines that we can use for additional drafting. Now let's see how that works. I opened up a very clean project, so there's nothing currently in my ARCHLine version, but I'm going to import a line work here, based on which I can continue my work. Actually, there are 2 DWGs I'm going to open, and if you have already downloaded the course material, then you know what to look for. So we're just going to import DWG, and we are going to use 2 files today, actually 3, the Elata Nova Start ground floor, 2D and first floor. So these 3 are part of the webinar package that you downloaded. Link is in the description of the video. So we start with the 2D DWG, which is actually going to be the whole plot where the building is going to be. Now, based on how your line work is organized, you may or may not have a complete preview. And you also can decide on the units based on which you are going to interpret the AutoCAD units, and you have a ruler here which tells you how big actual things are. Now this ruler doesn't help us at the moment because we don't see that many things, so at this time I just suggest to accept what you have and import the drawing. Now we see that this is actually the survey of the city block where this building is going to be. So we see the neighboring buildings, and this is the part where we are going to work today. Now, how do I know that this line is actually in the exact scale? Now I can go to documentation, or sorry, dimensioning, measure, and I have this quick distance measurement tool based on which I can measure the plot. And if I measure it, I see that it's approximately 12 meters, which is the way it should be. So I know for a fact that this is actually a good scale. By the way, today I'm going to work in millimeters, but I know that you are coming from all kinds of different countries with all kinds of different regulations. So if you want to change that, you can, but whatever you see down here, that's the unit that you are going to work on today. Now, it's very important that I have a project origin over here, and this is important because I'm going to import another DWG on top of this one, and as long as I'm not moving this project origin, the next DWG is going to be at the exact space where it should be. So let's go to File and Import DWG again, and I'm going to import the ground floor DWG. Now again, I have a floor plan here with many lines, so I can just zoom in and see if this makes sense. I think if this is 5 meters, then this should be approximately 4, so this one should be good. So I'm just going to accept it. By the way, if things are not appearing in the right scale, you can rescale things. So now you see that the city block drawing and the ground floor is actually lined up nicely. Now, let's return to this project origin topic for a second, because this is a major issue if you're working on large DXF DWG drawings. If you are working on a drawing where the origin is very far away, let's say a couple of 100 kilometers away where you need it, then you might have calculation issues. And let's see, how do you fix that? How do you move the project origin? Let's say I want to move the origin over to the fence over here. It's not a great distance difference, but it might make a difference. So let's just go to Edit, Move, Relocate Project Origin, and I'm just going to click on the node where I want the origin to go. Hit accept, and the origin is now there, so everything is going to be done in relation to this origin. I'm just going to reset this because I'm going to need it later on, so I'm just going to reset the origin. There you go. Now, here is my problem. This is a 2-dimensional drawing. How do I turn this into a 3-dimensional building? And for that, we have to talk about the building menu up here, which is holding all the components to create architectural drawings, including walls, slabs, columns, doors, and windows. Let's first talk about walls, because I have to somehow turn these lines, these are just lines, they are not helping me that much, turn them into 3-dimensional wall models. Before I do that, right click on the wall and let's go to the properties. Let's see what kind of walls I'm going to work with. When it comes to walls, you can obviously decide on the height of the walls, the total thickness, base offset if you want to elevate it or decrease it into the ground, and the materials. Now, this is just a one single layered wall. Later I'm going to show you how to make a multi-layered wall. And one important thing is that whatever you are creating, you can save it into something that we call styles. Now, let's talk about styles for a second. If you select the wall menu, then you see that you have all kinds of walls available at your disposal. Multi-layer, single-layered. Let's look at something which is multi-layered, like this one, a core layer and 2 plastered layers at the end. Now, if I create something like this, I see in the 3D that I have a very nice wall which has all the properties I have defined. But here's the problem. This floor plan over here has multiple wall thicknesses, so how do I decide which wall I should use from our properties or from my list? For that, I have a very good tool which I like to use. That's one of my favorite tools at this stage. It's called Wall on DWG Drawing. Now here's what we do. We select this tool and we click on 2 ending points of a line, like this, and click on the opposite side of the wall. Obviously now I don't have the right style selected, so let me just undo that. Actually, that's very good to demonstrate. Undo is done by Ctrl Z. So I'm going to look for a wall which has a very proper hatch pattern, so I'm just going to click on wall, and I'm going to use a 1-layer 30 wide wall. So go back to wall on DWG, one side, the other side, click on the opposite face, and I see a 3-dimensional wall piece appearing. Let's proceed. Click on one side, click on the other end, and click on the opposite side, and there you go. I have the wall taking shape right now. Again, if you want to continue, you can go back to the wall DWG drawing tool, but there's a very single shortcut I can show you here. If you right click on your work area, you can pull up the last used DWG drawing. That's the first trick I'm showing you today. So just right click, walls on DWG, click on one side, the other side, opposite face, and there you go. It's a bit repetitive at this point, but at least you don't have to care about the wall thickness. You don't have to worry about picking the wrong walls. This is actually a good time to just click and redraw the whole thing. If you enjoy listening to music while you work, I recommend that you pick something which is there to inspire you. I sometimes like to listen to something instrumental, so it's not taking my attention away from what I'm doing. So I have the main walls now, but there's something wrong. I don't have the right connection. How do we amend that? First of all, let's investigate how do I change the focus of what I'm working on. I click on this window, so whenever I click on the window, I see the blue header activated, and I click on this button over here, which is going to magnify the window I'm working on. Okay, I need to rotate the drawing now. There are many ways to do it. If you right click with the mouse and you hold it, you can rotate your drawing. Similarly, if you hold the shift key and the scroll, then you can rotate your drawing at will. Scroll in and you can zoom in, scroll out, you can zoom out, double tap with the scroll, and the model is going to be fit to the screen. So let's talk about the wall connections. That's not really good for me. In the quick access toolbar, I have the T and L connections. I'm just going to click on the L connection, click one wall, click the other, connection is amended. There you go. I think the other connections are good, except for this one. So I'm just going to do it again. There you go. Okay, let's talk about partition walls. For that, I need to go back to the 2D, magnify it, zoom in with the scroll, and proceed. Now, here is the problem. The drawing is getting pretty intense. There are many things I don't need. I don't need the stair now. I don't need all the lines. So I need to make this a bit more clearer. How do I do that? Remember when we were bringing in the DWG drawings? If you already know CAD, you know that every drawing comes with layers. And that's the case also with ARCHLine. Click on this tool over here, and that brings up the layer manager. Now, just very simple. Layers are sort of transparent entities onto which you can put certain architectural items, and that way you can filter and switch on and off what you want to see and what you do not want to see. For example, I have the drawings brought in. That's the Elatonova Star 2D. So that's all the lines and layers that came with the drawing, and I have the layers that I have created. So how do I disable everything except for the walls? Now let's go to all layers, click on one of the layers, Ctrl A to select all of them, and click on the light bulb, and that would turn off all the layers. Now that's not really good for me, because if I turn off all the layers, then that's not going to help me at all, because then I would not know what to use for actually keep on working. So I'm just going to have to enable the walls, the load-bearing walls. And I think I would also need the slab. So I'm just going to look for slab. And that would nicely filter up. Oh, the partition walls are missing as well. I have to go back to my layer manager. And I'm just going to enable that too. So you see, you can customize what you want to see. So just filter down your model, because otherwise you have a very hard time navigating with all the lines. So for example, now a staircase is gone because I don't really need it. Now let's go back to creating the walls. So I'm just going to hit walls in DWG. And you know the drill, just click on the opposite ends, opposite side, click on one, the other, and there you go. Obviously you could pick a wall with the corresponding thickness, which is I think would be around 100 millimeters, but then you would need to change back and forth because the thickness is changing. So I think the best course of action here is just retrace what you see, and on the 2D you can see how it looks like. Okay, I think I have all the walls now. I have one problem here, actually several. The connection is not good, so I'm just going to fix it the way I used before with the TNR connection. I think that's good, that's good. There's one problem. The walls have different interior and external materials, which is good for the main walls, but no good for the partition walls. So what do? I select the whole drawing, either in the 2D or the 3D. By the way, notice how when you select something in the 2D, it gets selected. I mean, select something in the 3D, it gets selected in the 2D as well. So You see that now 17 wall pieces are chosen, and now I can define that I want to have a bright white face for both sides. So there you go, I have the walls. Next I have to figure out the slab, because there is a slab under this building and there are actually 2 extra slab pieces. There's a terrace over here and a ramp over there. So how do I do that? Now, if I go to the slab tool, again right click before I do anything, because I want to customize how my slab looks like. First of all, I'm not satisfied with this, this covering over there, so I'm just going to click on it and change it. But I can't find anything here which I like, so I'm just going to go to the main material library. I go to parquet, strips, and let's find something which looks good. I think this one does. It doesn't really matter at this point which one you choose, because this is going to be a conceptual stage, but be sure to choose something similar so that your visuals would look similar to mine. Hit OK, and now comes the side of the slab, which should correspond with the walls, so that should be bright white over here. There you go. And now I'm ready to create my slab. I'm just going to hit the slab tool and go with slab by walls, which allows me to select all the walls I have, hit enter, and the slab is created automatically. So you don't have to retrace this time the whole drawing, you just have to select the walls and it's going to be created. Yes, that's all fine and nice, but what happens if you want to create a customized slab based on lines? Don't forget these are lines, so you can't really turn them into automatically with something else, so you have to make it something different. But, you know, the outside balcony or terrace should not have this parquet covering, you should have something else. Right click, property, go to the material and look for something else. Let's edit concrete, I think. Something concrete-ish. This prefabricated concrete would be nice for the top material, and for the side, I think the same thing would be good. So in fact, without clicking on this, I'm just going to select this tool, and that would chain all the sides together, so I don't have to worry about that. So hit OK. And now I go back to slab. Slab is sketch mode, and I'm just going to select the sides of my slab where I want it to create. Hit enter. And the slab is created. Now that's very nice, but what happens with this part? Because this is not only a slab, this has an inclination. And for that we have a ramp tool. The ramp works like this. You have to select what kind of ramp you want. Let's go with this. Click on the starting point, click on the ending point over here. Next I have to define the width of the slab, so it's going to be like this. So I'm just going to tie to the nodes that I have on my drawing, and I don't like how my ramp goes into my building, so I have to amend that somehow. That's very easy to do. Click on the edge and say insert node, and let's just insert additional nodes which would break up this ramp and give it the nice shape that we all need. So there you go. If you have a keen eye, you see that this is not okay yet, because this ramp is not in line with the slab. Obviously I could be using the 3 markers to move it to coincide, but that's not the way the ramps usually work, because the ramps have an inclination which has to comply with certain regulations. So let's assume that the 2 values I know is the top side and the inclination. So I have to click on the inclination marker, and I have several regulations and rules based on which I can set up how my ramp should look like. So first let's go with horizontal, and let's just zero everything out. Let's see what happens. If I zero everything out, I see that my ramp is pretty flat. So I'm just going to click on the landing again, and now I want to say that the top level is fixed, the bottom level should be a flexible one, and the slope, I know the slope, it should be 5%, because that's the number I was told by my by the project's original owners. So I'm just going to hit OK, and now I see that the ramp nicely starts to bend in. That's very good. Next thing I'm going to do, I have to do something with the doors and windows, because they are still missing from my floor plan. Even though I have them in as 2-dimensional lines, that's not really what I have here, so I need to create them somehow. Now let's talk about doors and windows for a second. So doors and windows are parametric elements, meaning that you can fine-tune them, you can open them, you can change how they look like. Let's see a few examples. So I see that most of the doors and windows are the same here. Let's just first see how the doors look like. So If I click on the door menu, I can choose from a palette of predefined doors. For example, I want to have a one-sided door, and I have different styles here again based on which I can work. For example, I want to have a door in a load-bearing wall. I just have to click on the wall, decide the opening direction, and there you go, the door is in the wall. What happens if you have a door that you want to create based on existing drawing? I'm just going to click on the door, hit delete, get rid of this because I'm going to now do something else. I'm going to use the line drawings. So right click on the door. Before I do anything, I have to fine tune how this thing looks like. I'm not satisfied with the material. I'm going to click on the solid panel. I'm just going to look for something else by clicking on this house icon and type in the name of the material, which is going to be wood paldo. Okay, now the frame is good, the wing is not good, so I'm just going to click on that, and here you go. I see now a short list of materials which all have this kind of orange triangle in the top left. That means that this content is at the moment being used in my model. So if I use this wood paldo material once, then I can just go back to the short list and pick it from here. There you go. Now I know that the distance from wall line for this door should be 0. Height is good. Let's hit OK. Now what do I do now? I click on door by 2 points, click on one side of the door, the other side, and click on the opening direction. There you go. So once, twice. Let's just navigate in the 3D for a second so you can see the result. There you go, the doors are appearing. Automatically, by the way, you don't have to manually refresh the 3D. So door by 2 points, click, click, there you go. Now, what happens if I have 2 winged or 1 fixed wing? So do I have to go back and change the door type and then retrace? Well, you can do that, but at this point I like to do it with the same door type I have. And later on I'm going to fine tune it. So I have 1 door here, and the double door is going to appear over there. Okay. And now comes the time when I have to fix the double door and this one over here. Actually, there's one thing, but what's missing is the sliding door, but later on I'm going to amend that too. So let's click the 1 winged door and fine tune it. Click on the pencil icon. First of all, that's not good of an original model, so I'm just going to click on flush, which is going to bring up the door library. Going to doors, double, flush internal double. The software now asks, okay, do you want to keep the previously set dimensions, which is the height and width? Yes, I want to keep that. But what I don't want to keep is the thickness. I have to change that to 100 millimeters. Okay, and now I have a nice two-dimensional and 3D representation of the doors. Let's proceed with the entrance door, which is still not good for my purposes. I click on the door, click the pencil, and I'm going to say that this is going to be a double door as well, but one side is going to be fixed. Yes, I want to keep the previously set dimensions, and the distance from wall line, I think I should decrease that or increase that. There you go. So nice, the doors are now there. Let's proceed now with the windows, and after that I have to look at what happens if I want to change something in my floor plan. So doors we have already covered. Let's see how windows are different. Oh, sorry, I was talking about windows at the same time. So when it comes to windows, they work with the same logic except with one difference, and that is the sill height. Because you have to care about the sill height of the drawing, so I'm just going to pull up the window menu and look for something which fits my purposes. I know for a fact that these windows have a trial sort of division, so I'm just going to look for a window which fits my purposes. I think if I type in divided frame 1x, that brings up the thing what I'm looking for. There you go. The sill height I have to change. It's going to be 0, and 110 should be the thickness. Redraw. Okay, I'm still not really satisfied with how this looks like. It has to have the same materials as the doors. So I'm just going to click on the solid material and go with wood paldo. Okay, and I think this is good. So let's see what happens if I want to recreate my floor plan with this. So I'm just going to click window by 2 points. Click on one side, click on the other side. One side and the other. Okay, there's a couple of windows over here. So what happens if I want to create, let's say, a corner window? That's an exciting topic over there. So let's see what happens. So again, just right click, window by 2 points, and click, click, again, click. Okay, I made a mistake over here, but that's not really important. Later on, I'm going to fix that. Click, again. There you go, we have the windows set up. There are a couple of things what I have to figure out. First, let's talk about the corner window. How do I link them up and make them look nicer? For that, I have a tool which I can use both in 2D and 3D. So let's go for window, windows on wall corner, join two openings to create a wall corner. Click on one window, click on the other. Okay, again, that's not really good for me because there are gaps now. How do I fix that? It's easy. Click on the window, click on the ending point, change size. There you go. Click on the window, click on the ending point, change size. Okay, one thing is not good. I'm not sure if you realize, but I don't like the seal. The seal is not in harmony with the material of the window. So how do I select all my windows and change the seals? It's easy. You select the whole floor plan, just like that. And I see I have a bunch of elements selected, but how do I filter down to windows? Just like that, from this quick filter down. That's trick number 2. If you filter it down, you see only the windows are selected. So if I go to the seals, I can just click on wood pellet here, and I'm going to change that here too. And there you go. So it's fixed. But I see that the mullion, the connection between the two corner windows, is still not good. So how do I fix that? If I select the window to which the mullion belongs, let's see, if I select this one, there's no mullion, but if I select the one on the left, there is a mullion. So I just click the pencil and I go to the built-in materials, and body material should be wood pellet. There you go. Okay, it's getting together, but there's actually one sliding door here missing, so I'm just going to have to add that too. So again, what I do is I go to door, right click, and I'm just going to go with a sliding door, which should be at this point I have to use some quick help because I have it written down which sliding door I should use, because I don't want to use the wrong one, because then you might have a different result over here. So that's just going to be something. Yes, let's say it's going to be glass sliding in one. There you go. Okay, about this door, I see that the distance from wall line should be 50 millimeters, and again, door by 2 points. Click the two ending points and define the opening direction like that. Okay, if I consult my drawings, I see that there are still two things I have to get right. One is the height of this door, which is not good because I know that this should be higher than the rest. So I'm just going to click on the door, and it's a perfect opportunity to show you how to modify the door and window properties in the 3D. Just click on the marker and submit 2400. And there you go. The other thing is that, and that's just a side note, you don't have to do this, but I'm just going to show you anyway. What happens if the material of an opening is different in the inside than on the other side? Especially on older buildings, historical ones, you are not allowed to change the external face of an opening, but inside you can paint it just fine. So how do you make that? Click on the window, click on the pencil icon, and go to the material tab where you can have external and internal frames. And let's just change the frame to something else internally. Bright white should be fine. So that's how you do it. I'm just going to undo this because this is not needed for the rest of the course, but I just wanted you to know it's a Ctrl-Z to go back. Okay, let's talk about the slabs over here. I consulted with with the project's owner, or the one who ordered this project, and turns out that he doesn't really want this kind of material. This doesn't look fine. He wants to have some kind of concretey thing. So if I change it now, I do not know how to log my changes. So there should be a tool which is able to log the details of an element, and then I can see exactly what happens on my drawing. And for that, I have a tool which is called tags. Now the tags are actually text bubbles, which would actually keep tracks of what is happening on your drawing. Now at this moment I'm just going to turn off the DWG drawings because I don't want to have properties of the lines. I'm going to have properties of the slabs. So I'm just going to again go to the drawing and turn off everything that I don't need. There you go. So now I just have the drawing itself, nothing else. So I want to have a tag which is going to log the details of the slab tool. So I'm just going to say that I want to have a tag of an architectural element and it has to be a slab. And now I can define what I want to include in my properties. So that's just, I'm just going to accept that and click on the slab. Now this is not a good position, so I'm just going to move my my schedule or my tag for a second. And also I can add a pointer line to the original element. So wherever I'm going to move this, it's going to keep in connection with the model. But what's the point of this thing? Let's look at it from a closer angle. First of all, I want to make it a bit more customized. I don't want to have too many lines. So I'm just going to select it. And for the bounding, I'm going to say no bounding. Okay, here's the thing. If I click on the tag, I see that certain elements have a paint bucket next to it. And the paint bucket actually chooses or shows you what kind of materials actually are given to this element. So now I see that the prefab concrete is selected on the tab in the material menu, and I can see that it's actually the same element. So let's change this to something else. Let's make it a more industrial look with the concrete 3 material. I hit OK, and here's what happens. The tag updates, and so does the drawing itself. So I'm just going to click on the side material and I'm just going to give it the same concretey look. And there you go. Now, another thing, I'm just going to change the side as well. Okay, now this slab is amended, but this ramp is still not having the right material. So how do I change that? How do I take one material and paste it onto other side or another piece? Select the element I want to copy from, right click and say find material, and now I see the concrete 3 being selected on my floor plan or selected. And I'm just going to click, drag and drop onto the next surface, and I'm just going to say I'm replacing this material with another on this particular object. Click on it and the change takes place. So it's very easy to update the changes on your drawing. So you don't have to manually update everything. You just have to care about the things with you just have to care about the things that you want to create. Meanwhile, I would like to thank the questions that are coming in. I'm going to try to answer them at the end. So just keep asking the questions. I see that they are very, very on the topic. So that's very good. At the end, I'm going to talk about them too. Okay, I have the drawing now. I have the walls, I have the openings, but how do I get from one floor to the other? I promised you a multi-story building, so I have to deliver on that promise. If I want to create a staircase, I have to create a staircase over here. Now, remember, I used to have a 2-dimensional drawing which showed the staircase, but I don't need that because I can recreate that based on these nodes. So I'm just going to go to building, stair, and again I have multiple stair styles I can use. So I have wooden stair without any waist slab, just the risers and the threads, but I'm just going to use a normal stair over here. And as for the shape, I'm going to go with an L form. So I click on the starting point of the staircase and I start to draw my stair, but the stair is not going to be created on the right side, so I'm just going to hit right side, click on the corner node, click on how high I want this staircase to go. Here's the trick. I want to make the staircase go to this level. How do I tie to this point? There are actually 2 ways. You either move your cursor over there and these green axes appear. That's boom, that's trick number 3 for you. Or you just hit the shift key and that would lock the staircase in a horizontal or a vertical position and just tie to the point that you want to tie to. Okay, this staircase is not actually at all good, so this has to be fine-tuned. So let's select the staircase, select the pencil icon, and let's go through the properties of the staircase. First of all comes the stairs height, which is currently 1,800 millimeters. Okay, how do I know where to get or how high this has to get? Now, I can either submit the value, Or I can just say that, listen, this stair has to take the floor height into consideration. And boom, the staircase now goes to 300 millimeters. Okay, the question here, how does the software know that this has to be 3000 millimeters? Let's just hit OK for now and find out. The software comes with a floor structure. Now, when you create a building, by default, you are going to have 4 different levels. Basement, ground floor, first and second floor. This you can fine tune, and also you can fine tune the height as well. Yes, that's all fine, but how does this thing turn into a nice staircase like that one? So for that I have to go back to the stairs properties and keep on talking about what I can fine tune. So hit the stairs, and first I have already talked about the 3000 millimeters, that's fine. Next thing I have to define is the number of steps. I see that there are 3 steps here and 9 there, but that's not good. I want to have N2, the second flight of stairs, to have 13 steps. Okay, if I submit a value like that, I see that something happens, the software is calculating, and some values are going to be gray, the other ones are going to be red. Now, the red values mean that based on the current settings, which are under here, by the way, and under the cogwheel, you can fine tune that, but I'm not going to do that now because that's going to be a bit off topic now. So based on the values that I have submitted, this value, the 650 millimeters, is not going to be ergonomic. Does this mean that the software is not creating the staircase? No, it doesn't. It just tells you that based on the current values, this is not going to comply with the regulations. You can create all kinds of staircases you want, but the software will tell you that what you created is not going to be that comfortable. I know for a fact that it's going to be, so that we don't have to worry about that. Next, I have to fine-tune the width of the flight, which is going to be 1200 millimeters. Sorry, I have to, yes, submit this value. Okay, and I can define the length of the flights. I'm not going to care about that. Now the software tells me that one of the flights is not long enough, but I don't really have to care about that. Just hit OK. Now, yes, the width is not defined yet. Was it 1200 maybe? Okay, so what happens if my staircase is wider than that? I have to consult my values because I'm pretty sure that I defined a value which is not good at this context. What I want to show you is actually what happens if you want the staircase to cut the walls. And let's just go back to the staircase and let's see what happens if I define these values. Yes, I have the number of. Meanwhile, I have the sort of the cheat sheet opened up for me, so I can see exactly what my staircase should look like. So 3000, this is good. Number of steps is 16. I'm just going to add 1200, or was it 1300? Yes, it should be. Okay, this part I'm going to quickly jump over because that's the magic of live shows. It just worked before I started, but now it doesn't. So instead, I'm going to show you something else. What happens if I want to have a staircase with a different kind of support? I'm just going to right-click on the wall. What I have here, I don't need that, so I'm just going to isolate that into 3D. Just isolate this object, and that one is isolated too. I want to create something more interesting. For that, I have to jump into my model, which I can't really do because no matter what I do, I can't really see my staircase. What's wrong with that? Well, it's nothing wrong, actually. This is an axonometric view, meaning that no matter how close I get, the distances would not get shorter. So I have to jump into something that we call a perspective view. Now the perspective view can be achieved with this eye icon. And now the software tells me that this is where I am, that's where I'm looking, that's the model. So that's what I see. If I click on the red marker, I can drag my camera closer, and now I see the staircase just like that. Okay, that's going to be good, so I'm just going to hit the plus icon, and now I have a view saved over here. Later on we are going to return to that, don't have to worry about that. So let's click on the staircase and go back to the properties and dig a little bit deeper. If I go to support, I see that currently my staircase has a waist slab, which is this white part over here, which is 150 millimeters. but I don't want to have a vase slab. I want to have a stringer. Now the stringer is something you can use to give it like a normal support for your staircases, like a middle one. So if I enable the stringer, I have several options in terms of where the stringer has to be. So let's just go with middle, and how the stringer looks like. So it should be a middle stringer stair support, a basic one, and there you go. Looks like there's a problem over there. I think I have an extra node. Maybe that would explain why my staircase is not looking the way it should. So if I go to the stair properties, I go to step geometry, I see that accidentally maybe I misclicked, but this is actually one of the steps is actually a landing, so that's not going to be good. It has to be a step. Hit OK, and I'm just going to regenerate the support over here. So I'm just going to click on the staircase, go back to support, and I'm going to say that this has to be regenerated just like that. So you can have a very nice like middle console for this staircase. Let's just add another one. Let's see what happens then. So I'm just going to click the staircase, go to support, and instead I'm going to go with this. So I suggest you just experiment. In fact, if you have a very adventurous mind, or you're not afraid of falling down on the stairs, let's just select the properties then and disable the stringer, and then you end up with the steps themselves, which if you combine them with riser boards, which are over here, let's give it a slanted riser board, then you end up with something like this. So again, this is a scenario which you can use. I'm not going to go with that one. I'm just going to undo this, and I'm just going to go back until I have a vase slab, because that's what I'm going to work on as we go on. So I'm just going to go back to support and go with a vase slab. Okay. Next thing I have to do, I promised you a multi-story building, so that's what we shall have. But how? First of all, let's go back to axonometry. I'm just going to click on this item up here and go to any of these views. So I'm just going to go like this. How do I make this building have an additional floor? Which is to say, how do we get to the first floor or second floor if you're coming from the US? Here we would say ground floor and second floor. You see that the first floor is very similar to the ground floor, but there are some differences. So how do I copy this without having to work too much? What I usually do, I select the whole drawing and I just click on the 3D on the things I do not want to copy. I do not want to have the partition wall. That one, that one, that one over there. I do not need that either. The staircase, I don't need it. So I end up with this. And now I'm just going to, oh, that one I don't need either. I hit Control and then just click on the elements. And I unselected a bunch of things. And now I'm just going to say copy objects to first floor. And there you go. You have an additional element. With additional walls I have to delete. Maybe I have forgotten to select them. Okay, there are a couple of things I have to figure out now. There are differences between the two floors. I have to update these differences, and also I have to talk about how to navigate between floors and actually how to copy things. I showed you that if you select one thing and say that copy the element to another floor, that's doable. But if you are in the floor manager, I can just simply copy elements from here. So I'm just going to select the ground floor over here, and I'm just going to say I want to copy elements, and then I can just select the elements I want to copy. So I'm not going to do that again because I just did. First problem, how do I get from the staircase to the first floor? I select the floor plan, hit page down to go one step down, hit the staircase, and under the staircase menu there's a cut slabs above stair option, which would nicely cut the slab. So that's good, that's fine. One thing is actually filtered out as a problem. Second problem is how do I retrace the drawings that I have already retraced before, now this time on the first floor. I have to go back to the layer manager, and I'm just going to have to enable the layers what I have disabled before. So I'm just going to hit OK, Oh no, sorry, I don't even have a drawing to retrace here. So that's why I don't see the lines. So I'm just going to hit File, Import, and this time I'm going to bring in the first floor of this drawing. I think the scale is fine, so I'm just going to hit OK. Yep, I'm going to place it, and now I see the 2D lines superimposed over my lines. I see several things here that I can retrace, so I'm just going to use the Evolve on DWG and do the same thing as I did before. There's no magic over here. I'm just going to select the walls. In fact, I'm just going to highlight this window so I have more space to work. So first, I'm going to retrace the walls, and then come the windows. It's pretty repetitive, but that's the best way to do it without having to worry too much about the wall thicknesses. There you go. Again, if you have questions about what I have showed you so far, feel free to ask. At the end, we are going to look at the questions just fine. So I'm just going to... Okay, walls are good, except that the materials are not good. So I'm just going to highlight all the walls that I have in my drawing on the first floor. Just Control and click. And here, they should be bright white. And I have to retrace the doors. Before that, I have to look at it. Ah, yes, there are some problems with the connection, so I'm just going to click, amend it. Again, if there are too many nodes on your drawing, this is going to inevitably happen, so let's just keep an eye on that. So, going back to door, I'm just going to pull up a flush door. There you go. I think the properties are good. Distance from wall line should be 0. And I'm just going to retrace the drawing just like that. Click, click. There you go. One door here, another one there. And let me show you what happens if you want to copy a door. Because I have one here, and I want to place another one there. So this, I want to mirror there. So here's what I do. I select the drawer. Now it's not easy to select it because there are many things on top of each other. You see that I selected a line. So let me just use this quick jump list to go to my door, hit this arrow icon, move a copy, and I'm just going to move my copy over here. There you go. Use whichever is easier for you. Honestly, that's actually the workflow. Just you don't have to use the same things over and over again. Instead, use what is applicable on that particular scenario. Let's have another one here. Okay, another difference between the first and the second floor is that this should not be here. This should be instead a window, as we see on the drawing. So how do we create a window based on that? Now, it's not really easy because I see that this window has a different size than that one. So I'm just going to click on the window that I have, click on the node, move a copy, and I just copy paste this window on top of the other one. Click on the window, decrease its size, and then we have to crank up the sill height and crank down the height of the window. The height I know for a fact is 1200. Let's hit enter. And the sill height is going to be 900. Again, you can do this in the 2D, on the 3D, based on these markers. There's another copy of this window over there. So what do? Move a copy. And there we go. Let's just line it up. Okay, so nice, I have actually 2 floors. But a couple of things are still missing. And those things are the balconies and the railings. So that's what I'm going to look at next. For the balcony, I'm going to use the Slab tool, just like I did before. I'm just going to make sure with the page up and page down buttons that I'm actually on the right floor. So this is the ground floor, this is the first floor. So this is what I have to retrace. I go to the Slab tool, and I think it has to be a material which is similar to what the walls are like, and that is bright white on the sides, on the top, and I think the bottom material should be white ceiling. There you go. Hit OK, and now I'm just going to retrace what I have here, which I can do using this tool, Slab in sketch mode, and I'm just going to highlight and retrace what I have over here. There you go. Click, click, enter, and the slab is over here. I'm going to return here in a second to create a railing, but before that I have to create a roof over here, for which I again have some numbers which I have to pull up because I don't know them on top of my head, and I have a very nice sort of content here which I can use. You can fine-tune these things as you go, but it's better to sort of get them right on the first try. So here I want to have two slabs on top of each other, which I can create by clicking on the slab tool and first slab in sketch mode, retrace what I have over here, hit enter. Slab is created, but it's way too thick, so I have to change its properties, which I can do by clicking on the slab, and here the height should be -100, and the base elevation, you see how things update right away, you don't have to manually update things, and the base elevation should be -300. There you go. Now all I need to have is another slab on top of this one, so I'm just going to right click and slab in sketch mode, and just retrace the slab that you created, only this time its values are going to be different so that they would nicely line up and create this kind of multi-layered sort of roof over here. So I'm just going to select the new slab that I've created, and the materials for this are fine, but the height should be -100 and -200. There you go. If you want to change the materials, you can do that here. Let's return to the railing, and let's see how do we create one. Now, railings are special tools in a sense that you have to create them once and then you can fine-tune them in a similar fashion as you would do with a staircase. So let's just see how they are done. So let's just navigate on the 2D where the railing should be and go with the railing menu. Now if I click on the railing, I see that I have many different kinds of railings, all kinds of panels and lines and balusters, and I think the metal railing with glass would be just right for my purposes. So I'm just going to click where I want the railing to go, and the railing is created. Now, as it happens, I'm not really satisfied with the height of this railing because I see that it's actually higher than it should be. So what do? I click on the marker and I click on the blue marker, and if I click on that, I can vertically move my railing, so I can push it downwards, and I type in 100 millimeter would be fine to. Actually, let's make it 200. It's not an additional 150 would be fine. Yeah, there you go. So that's what I wanted to achieve. Now, some of you have already noticed that there's one major problem with the representation of my staircases. Let me show you why that is. For now, I'm going to get rid of the imported DWG drawing, and I'm just going to disable the first floor, and you will see right away what the problem is. The problem is that I don't see the staircase. Okay, how do I do that? How do I make a staircase 2D representation appear up here and not only here? So for that, I have a very nice trick for you, and that's going to be trick number 3 for today. So click on the staircase on the ground floor and go for copy objects to another floor, and I'm going to copy it to the first floor, but only I'm going to make a pseudo copy. Now a pseudo copy actually is only a 2-dimensional group, which is not the original element, only it just looks like it. So if I want to fine-tune this, you can do that. So click on the element, right click and edit group, and now I can fine-tune how my group looks like. Select elements you don't need, hit delete, and select this element over here, which is delete between points, and then you can just fine-tune and get rid of the things that you do not need. So if I have way too many excess lines, then I can do that. In fact, I'm going to have one line over here. How do I do that? 2 ways actually. You either go to drafting and select line, or if you have already used CAD, you just type in line, and just click. So now all I have to do, I just have to get rid of the things that I don't need. There you go. And when I'm done with this, just have to trim this line back, it seems. Oh, I had an excess line. When I'm done with this, I just click on the group, and I'm going to say I'm going to close the group, and from now on the representation should look like, I think I have two groups on top of each other. I have to go back to this and see why it did not work the way it was supposed to. But anyway, that will be the idea. You can select the group and edit it the way you want. Another thing that comes up as a question more often than not is, how do I define the line weight of this drawing? I can do that up here. So if I go to the view control bar and I drop it down, I see that I can choose between different line weight scales. I can go back to 1 to 50, and I go down to 1 to 10. This does not affect the printing scale. This just affects the way I see the model now. So for now, we are going to stop here. So we are going to stop modeling here, and tomorrow we are going to move ahead with the roof and the gutters and other elements, all exciting parts. But let's first now look at the questions that we have. Oh, there's quite many. So there are some Spanish questions I don't quite understand, but I'll try my best. Okay, how do we draw shutters on windows? That's a good question. For shutters, we have a library. We have a library in which we can either add a window which has a built-in shutter with it, or you can go with the object itself and find the shutter which you need. The shutter of one leaf, I think that will be fine, so I'm just going to go to this window and I'm just going to place it like that. Okay, this doesn't really look good on this model, but you get the idea. One important thing is that you can fine-tune how this shutter looks like. I'm just going to go to the 2D and open up its properties, and you can decide how many parts you have in there, what the height is, what the material is. But that's the idea. That's how you create a shutter based on the window that you already have. Let me just get rid of this because I really don't like it on here. Okay, question: is it possible to build from a scratch a wall with thermal insulation, so on section we can see the different elements of the walls and make a printable detail of the workers? Now, that's actually a very good question, because as you have noticed, this was a conceptual model with one layer walls and one layer slabs. That's almost never the case, so you have to know how to create something more elaborate than that. And that we can do with building, wall. Right click, let's go to property. If I click on edit compound walls, I can build up a wall of many layers. Let's say that this wall has 3 layers, 100 millimeters each, brick on 2 sides and insulation in the middle. How about that? So I'm just going to decrease this to 100 millimeters. And I'm going to make 2 copies. You see right away that it has 3 layers. So I'm just going to click on all of them and I see the fill pattern. This layer should be stone wall, that's fine. But this one should be thermal insulation. I'm just going to click on the edit tool. And here I can define what kind of hatch pattern I want to have here. I can have many from this list. I'm just going to use thermal insulation. Okay. Sorry, I managed not to hit OK once I have set up things. That's something what we do when we are looking at something else. So you see right away that the result is this. Now let's see how this looks like in action. So let's hit OK, and I'm just going to create one wall over here which has the exact patterns. If I go in the 3D, I see that it has the 3 layers. More importantly, and that is very interesting, if I go back to the compound wall and I define the material to something else, let's say it should be insulation, thermal insulation, this one, then even the middle layer would have a different representation in the 3D and on the 2D as well. The next logical question is how do we save this into a sort of factory default? If I select the wall and I click on the style manager here, I can just click new and I can save this into a multi-layered wall webinar name. The folder should be webinar wall styles, and there you go. So from now on I have a wall style which has the exact properties I have set up. And that's the answer to your question, I think. Okay, I'm just looking at the other questions. They are very good to keep this topic even more relevant. So that's how far we are going today. Tomorrow we are going to, as I showed you, talk about how to create a roof and other elements, and later on we proceed with documentation, sections, elevations, quantity takeoff, schedules, and don't forget that this is what we are hoping to achieve. So for now, I'm going to thank you for your attention for today. Thank you for staying around and looking at how this building looks like. I think I can be satisfied with the result, but tomorrow we are going to make it even better. So be sure to stick around. If you like this video, then give it a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. And see you tomorrow at 11 when we are going to keep on working on this model and create something beautiful. Thank you for your attention. See you next time.